Hello, and welcome to what will be the first in a series of videos on how to make sourdough bread. My name's Matt, and I work at the Cartford Inn. I bake the bread there that goes on the plates in the restaurant, and also what we sell in Totty, the deli there. I've left links to both of those below, so you can go and have a gander. And yeah, I first got into baking sourdough about 3 years ago. I kind of started baking yeasted bread, and then I got put onto the idea of sourdough, and I really just kind of got hooked. I enjoy it, and it's good fun, and I'll explain later. It's definitely better for you than bread, normal bread. But a lot of people are indoors at the minute, got a lot of time to kill, and sourdough is a very good way of killing some time, a lot of time. So I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of do a little step-by-step guide of how to do it. I'm not going to show you how to do anything super fancy. Just get a really good loaf of bread in as simple steps as possible. You know, kind of, we're not going to do really fancy techniques, mainly because, and this is a disclaimer right off the bat, I'm no expert in this. Everything I've kind of learned or learned how to do, I've just kind of done by practice and by doing a lot of reading and research. And you know, that's the thing, you've got to keep practicing at something like this. So this is just going to be a basic, I'm going to make a loaf of sourdough. This is step by step. I mean, I don't want to put you off, but it might not work first time, but don't be disheartened, because the more you have a go, the better you get, the better your bread's going to be, and that's really going to be great for you. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is make a starter. So your starter is kind of like, it's like the yeast, basically. It's like the raising agent in your bread. And it consists mainly of two things that make the bread what it is, and that's naturally occurring yeast and lactic acid bacteria, and that's really what gives sourdough its kind of characteristic taste, texture, and if you've heard about sourdough before, that's also what gives it a very good kind of reputation for health. So lactic acid bacteria kind of breaks down a lot of the carbs in bread that some people find very difficult to digest. So, you know, I'm not saying that if you are intolerant or have a celiac condition to go out and eat sourdough. Don't do that. Not on my advice anyway. But generally, it's a lot better for you. And that all comes from the starter. So that's the first thing we're going to make. Really simple and very straightforward. Okay, so what you're going to need to make your starter. At this point, there's quite a bit of equipment you might need over the whole process, but I'm going to try and do this, given that we're all on lockdown, in a simpler way as possible, just kind of thinking about what people might have in, what people won't have in, and kind of tailor this to that scenario. So, you know, you see people with fancy baskets, like this, and like this. Unless you've got one, don't bother. We're going to take it nice and simple. Everything's going to be done in mixing bowls. You don't need a mixer. Don't go out and buy a KitchenAid. Buy some food for your family instead. So yeah, nice and simple, easy to do, as easy as possible. Hopefully that's going to work. So if you already have it in, great. If you don't, then on the next time you go out for your daily exercise, unless you've already done that today, sorry, or you need to go to the shop, the two things you're going to need are wholemeal flour or rye flour. I'm using rye flour just because I like the taste, and strong bread flour. So that's wholemeal flour and strong bread flour, and that's pretty much all you're going to need at this point. Everything after that is just equipment, and like I say, I'm going to try and tailor it so that you don't have to buy any equipment. So that's going to be helpful, I think. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is make our feed, which is what we're going to start the starter with, and also what we're going to feed it with in the coming days. I've pre-made mine here, so it's a 50-50 mix of your wholemeal flour and your strong white bread flour. Okay, and that's going to be quite a staple. So you can kind of, I've made about, I don't know, maybe 500 grams here. And of course, because this is going on Instagram and YouTube, I've put it in a kilner jar. That's not necessary at all. Put it in whatever you like. Store it in a shoe. Okay, so I'm going to start making the starter now. So I've got some lukewarm water here. Not too cold, not too hot. Body temperature's perfect. You don't need to worry too much about temperature in the minute. We're trying to cultivate bacteria and yeast. So you don't need to worry about temperature until we get into like proper fermentation and all that kind of thing. So just lukewarm is fine. So I'm going to weigh out. Oh, that is one thing you're going to need that I didn't mention, some weighing scales. They don't have to be fancy, you don't have to spend loads of money. Cheap as you can get them, some nice weighing scales that'll do the job, and that's absolutely fine. Right, so I'm going to take my warm water. I'm going to weigh out 50 grams of water. There we go. And then I'm going to take some of my feed, my pre-made feed, and I'm going to weigh out 50 grams of that. So that's a 1-to-1 ratio. So when we get further in to the process, there might be a bit of referral to baker's percentages, but I'll explain those. And there's a lot of ratios with your feeds. But at the minute, just 1-to-1. 50 grams of this, 50 grams of that. And then all we're going to do with that is mix it. You don't need any fancy tools like these. Got this in a pack. Never really used it. Kind of not really sure if it's any better than just your hand. But for the sake of it, and because I've got to touch the camera when I finish this, I'm just going to use a silicone spatula. Any spoon is fine. Do it with your hand if you want, because you're not on a thing and having to touch a camera, it's fine. So all I'm going to do is just mix that together. I'm trying to get rid of all the lumps. Okay, so what I've got here is my basic starter. It just needs to be a tiny little bit thinner, and you might find this with certain flours that they're going to absorb a lot more water than other flours. Given that the starter is our medium of fermentation, the more moisture it has, the better chance it has of growing up to a certain limit. But we'll get into hydration more later. So I'm just going to add a tiny little bit more water just to loosen it off slightly. You're basically looking for the consistency of kind of thick batter. So Okay. Yeah, that's a bit better. So I've maybe added another 10 or 15 grams of water there. Okay, just needs to drop like that, okay? Right, so we've mixed that. What we're going to do next is we're going to get a clear plastic pot or a killer jar. As long as it's clear, it just needs to be clear so you can see the bubbles starting to form. Use anything you like. If you've got like a glass bowl or, you know, a little pot, a Tupperware is absolutely fine. And then all we're going to do is just pop our starter in there. Okay? Make sure it all goes in. That's it. And then we're just gonna loosely put a lid on. We're not gonna seal the lid because what this is gonna do is it's gonna take bacteria and the wild yeast that's in the air and kind of harness it basically. So it needs to have access to air at the minute. Until it's fully established. So we're just going to leave the lid off, and then I'm going to just leave it. I'm going to leave it in the corner of my kitchen, just behind the camera. That's where I do kind of all my fermenting when I'm baked sourdough. So what you want to do is you want to pick a spot that's not too hot, not too cold. Again, kind of like not body temperature. If it's body temperature in your house, I'm very worried. But yeah, somewhere that's not too hot, not too cold, probably between 18 and 22 degrees would be ideal. Yeah, you're just going to leave it there, lid off, out of sunlight, and we're going to put it there for 24 hours and we'll come back and check on it tomorrow. So that is step one. You've made a starter. You can name it if you like. Any suggestions for names for this one? Put them below. Puns very much welcome and encouraged. So that's it really. That's the end of the first video. I'll make another one tomorrow when we'll check back on this. Hopefully someone will have named it by then. Just for a little bit of inspiration. My current starter, which is, in fact, I'll show it to you. My current starter, which is about 3 and a bit years old, is called Levance Knolls. Levain being the term for the pre-feed just before making a loaf. So obviously I had to make a pun out of it. Anyway, shouldn't have revealed that. But yeah, so if you've got any questions at all, feel free to pop them below and I'll answer them, because I've literally got all the time in the world to just think about and make bread. You think it'd be a dream come true? We'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope it's not been too complicated or too waffly. I do tend to waffle quite a lot. It's taken me about an hour to film this video because I've waffled so much, and I'm doing it again now. So I'll sign off now. Happy starter making, and we'll see you tomorrow.